Hey, fellow Georgetown students, getting ready to graduate in your F&P 4 semester. So I have been a nurse practitioner. I'm a Georgetown alumni, and I've been a nurse practitioner now for just 3.5 whole months. And I just wanted to share some of the process things that I went through in F&P 4 so that you guys can kind of have a little bit of a better experience than some of us did not having this advice. So hopefully this will help a lot of you knowing like which test to take, for example, and what the process is with your licensing, which is obviously going to be different state to state. So I'm just going to start by kind of going through the process. First of all, Georgetown's amazing. I feel like they've prepared me extremely well. Don't get too worked up about the final exam. I feel like Georgetown prepares us very well for that, as well as the board exam. So I'm just going to kind of read through some of these things. So I think it's important to kind of know now which exam you want to take, which I think a lot of you probably are going to know which exam to take. There's the AANP and the ANCC. So just keep in mind that they're both board certified. The ANCC is it's the F&P BC, but that doesn't mean that the AANP isn't board certified as well. It's just that the ANCC copyrighted the BC part of their name. So they're both technically board certified. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I want to take ANCC because I want to be board certified. Well, they're both certification exams, right? Which means they're both board certified. So just keep that in mind before you take them. So they both have different requirements. So you want to go on their websites and you want to find out which one requires what. In your professional roles class, you would have gone through some of those details. I personally chose the AANP so that I could actually test quicker and get certified quicker. So the AANP allows you to test before you actually officially graduate. The ANCC, however, you have to wait until the degree is actually conferred, which means that it's been written on your transcript. Well, no, that's not true because that ended up being done quite a while after the degree conferment. But it needs to actually show, I think, for example, we were done with classes by December 5th, but our degree didn't technically confer till December 31st. So a lot of my cohort that took the AANC had to wait till sometime in January to take it, and I was able to take it 3 days after my final class. So you do have to wait until your very final class, whether it's the F&P class or in my case, I was a full-time student, so I had to wait for my professional roles class to end, which was December 5th. A lot of people that didn't have that second class, they took it days after our final in F&P. So just know that you can take that one a lot quicker. So if you're kind of in a time crunch to get moving on things, the AANP is the way to go. Another thing to keep in mind is the AANP, when we pay for that exam, we're supporting our profession. So we're giving money to the AANP, and they do a lot for nurse practitioners. The ANCC is American Nursing Association's group. So that money is going toward, which is okay to go to. We're still technically RNs. It goes toward the RN profession more than the nurse practitioner profession. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well, is that we are supporting our group specifically of nurse practitioners when we pay for AANP's exam. So let's see here. Oh, and then the big thing about the tests, there's more questions on the ANCC, and they're more focused heavily on research, professionalism, like ethics, things like that, and with like 58% of them being clinical questions, and the rest of the test is other things other than clinical questions. The AANP's exam is all mostly clinical. That was another driving force for me selecting the AANP, is that I really felt strong with my clinical questions more than I did the other stuff. So keep that in mind when you're selecting the exam you take too. Let's see here. So the processing timeline. Let's go over the processing timeline a little bit. So during the break between F&P 3 and 4, which you guys are beyond at this point, but this video will hopefully help students that are in F&P 3 as well. I'm hoping that this can be utilized for students You guys can share this with your classmates or with people that you know are behind you, so that hopefully they can take this, heed this advice here. But what I did personally was between FNP 3 and 4, that's when I started doing all of my research about my Board of Nursing, what the requirements were, and I'm glad I did. The reason why is that their applications expired after only 30 days of them receiving the application. So had I sent my application in too soon to the Board of Nursing, it would have expired before I completed my board exam. So they need to see that you've tested and you've been certified, board certified, before they'll finish processing your application. So if I had sent it in sooner, I would have had to go through the whole application process again. So just make sure you call your Board of Nursing, find out what their specifics are, and do that during your break because it gets pretty intense. You have clinical, you have class. There's a lot in FNP 4 to do and a lot to worry about. And so I always took it upon myself to figure things out like this during break when I knew I wasn't going to have other responsibilities at the time. Let's see here. You can find a lot of information from your Board of Nursing website, but some of them are just really archaic setup, and it's hard to sift through a lot of that stuff, like my website or my board. So I ended up calling, and I got a lot of questions answered a lot easier that way. Okay, so during this time, as soon as possible, if you're ready to apply for your board exam, you need to request an official, when you go on the website to apply for your exam, which you can do now, you can pay for it and get it all out of the way now. Make sure that you send the official copy to AANP or ANCC, whoever you're testing through, because Georgetown does not put their name on the unofficial transcripts. I learned this the hard way. So I submitted my unofficial transcript to them, but I got an email saying that's not good enough because the name of the college is not on the unofficial transcript. And sure enough, I looked, and if you look at your unofficial transcript on Georgetown, you will notice that there's no name on there. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. And just right off the bat, send your official transcript. Okay, now, this is a big thing. Make sure that you have any name changes made prior to FNP 4, as it can hold things up. So if you're going to change your name sometime in FNP 4, I would suggest waiting, like if you get married, I would suggest waiting until you get all of your schooling over with, taking your boards, licensing, all of that stuff. And it's easier to change your name through, I mean, you will end up having a lot more things to change your name with when you do it that way, but you really don't. I knew someone who really, things got really messed up for her because she changed her name partway through FNP 4. So I would really be cautious of that. It can really impact she couldn't take her board exam for quite a while. So know that Georgetown's final transcript processing can take some time to complete. You have to continually check the status and call them and bug them like I did. I might have been a little OCD about it. If you haven't seen any movement with your transcripts, which you can keep looking online under your unofficial transcript to see. You'll see in the very top left, you'll see when your degree actually does post to it. But you need to keep all of that in mind so that when you are job hunting, if you get a job offer, you're going to kind of know it's going to take a while to even get your transcript to your potential employer or get your transcript to the Board of Nursing and the AANP, because the AANP can't process your certification. So I tested on December 8th, and I wasn't technically, I had to wait until the first week in January. My transcript was finally processed, and then the second week of January, the AANP received my transcript, and I was finally certified the middle of January, and I tested on December 8th. So it took a long time, so you guys need to keep that in mind. I'm kind of wanted to do this video so that you guys understood the time, the processing that it takes, so that you can know I better work as an RN longer, or, you know, it might help you financially, because I was kind of stuck. Like, I couldn't start my job. And fortunately I had saved enough of my student loan money to tide things over for an entire 2 months after school. So keep that in mind. I don't want you to think, just know that if you're not working as an RN through school, like I wasn't, that you have a means to pay for at least 2 months of your bills, because that's what it took by the time I was finally able to start working my job. So I took my board exam on December 8th, and I finally was able to start working on the 6th of February. So, and that was fast. That was actually really fast compared to some. So keep that all in mind. Let's see. So you have already applied to take the exam. You take your FNP4 final, and GU will send you a list of students. They'll send a list of students that have passed that final to the AANP and ANCC. I think you need a separate letter for the ANCC from, well, it used to be DNET. This is why Georgetown wants to know if you're testing. They do that survey. They want to know which test you're taking, because they know they have to process those letters. Once that email with your name on it gets to the AANP, you will get a confirmation from them that you can now take your exam. Woohoo! This usually happens within a couple of days. Don't hesitate to call if it seems like your other classmates are getting approval and you're not. And I say this because it happened to me. So everybody, I was the very first person that applied for my AANP and did all of this stuff. I was, like I said, a little OCD about it. I had everything ready between FNP3 and FNP4. So everyone came to me with questions because they knew that I was done with everything. So you need to keep that in mind. So what happened was everyone was getting their emails okay to test. And I'm like, wait, I was the first one to apply for it. I should have heard something by now. And what had happened is I go by my middle name, Lee, with Georgetown, but my name's LaDonna Lee Roby. And so they had submitted my name to the AANP as Lee Roby, but the AANP had me listed as LaDonna Lee Roby. So they were thinking that I wasn't on the list because they weren't reading it properly. So you need to keep that in mind and make sure. Never hesitate to call. I call people and I bug them all the time. So then after that process, you schedule your exam, you pass it, woohoo, and then you wait. You're waiting for the degree to confer to the transcript, like I mentioned, and the nursing department and the registrar are the ones that work together to do that. Check My Access to see if the degree is shown up on your unofficial transcript. Once you see that it's showing up, you need to get your official transcripts into the AANP and your Board of Nursing. Don't forget both places. I suggest overnighting your transcript to the AANP. I had my certification a week prior to everyone else in my cohort because I did overnight it. I only overnighted the AANP transcript, not the Board of Nursing. The reason that the Board of Nursing requires the certification prior to licensing anyway, so it didn't matter if they waited, right? Because they were waiting for the AANP. So then the AANP will send the verification of certification either by mail or email. And that makes a really big difference in your timeline. It's determined not by the AANP, but your Board of Nursing. So Washington State, where I live, they accept emails, but I know other students that their states didn't accept emails and it had to go through snail mail, and it took an extra couple of weeks for them to do that. So here's a small catch. Some Board of Nursings don't even let you apply before you're certified. Like you can't even advance in the application past a certain point if you're not certified, because it'll ask you the date of certification. And if you don't have a date of certification to put in there, they won't even let you go to the next step. So keep that in mind. So that's why I say know your state stuff ahead of time. Know all the requirements ahead of time. It'll give you a realistic start time for your future employment. And like I said, help you plan financially. So how I suggest planning for the final. This is a big one. So QBank questions through APEA's website. I did those throughout the semester. I really focused on my worst areas that I found on the pre-semester exam. So you guys have all taken that already. You've taken your, well, I shouldn't say that because this video might be used for people who are not in FNP4 yet. But I know that the people I told I would make this video for, y'all have taken it. So use the weak points on that and really focus using your QBank questions. Every day you need to work on some QBank questions. The APA predictor exam, buy it. Okay, it's similar to the pretest that you took. Buy that exam. I mean it. It's great. Buy it and take that 1 week prior to your to FNP4 final. That way, what you can do in that week is you can focus on, you'll see a huge improvement on your score too. I did. I was like, dang, it was like 12% higher than my pre-exam was. So I was really pleased to see that. So it does one of two things. It gives you an idea of how well your studying worked from pre to now, to a week before the exam, and then it boosts your confidence going into that final. It shows you that, okay, I can do this, I can. And so I got a really overwhelming boost of confidence. It was fantastic. Still nervous as hell, still so nervous, but it gave me such an amazing boost of confidence. So just buy that. I promise you, it's worth the money to get that predictor exam from APEA. Because it's extremely helpful. So you're going to do that 1 week prior to the FNP4 final. And then that week of studying that you have, you're going to go through all those weak areas using QBank, using the Lake book. I thought that was really fantastic. So then after you take that final and you pass it, because you're all going to pass, you're going to go ahead and take a few days off. I can't stress it enough. You need to take a few days off. You don't want to jump into your board exam too quickly. So you're going to take a few days off, and then you're going to use the FNP final as another predictor to use that to study for your board exam. So again, you're going to go through all those weak areas, and you're going to be finishing up with your QBank questions. What I did is I used the Lake book. There's a lot of questions in Lake, and I went through before the questions, there's quick blurbs about each section, like each body system, and you just read through that. I read through all of my weak areas. I didn't even bother with all of the other stuff that I was already seeing that I'm pretty strong in. I didn't touch it because you only have so much space in your brain, right? And all you're really trying to do is boost the areas that you kind of have a little bit more difficulty with. So that's what I did, is I boosted it. And by reading Lake, answering the questions in Lake, finishing up with QBank and answering all the QBank questions. So you're going to hopefully do that, okay? And then what you're going to do is the PSI exam. I highly recommend it. I know all of this is a lot of money. When you pull it all together, it costs a lot to purchase all of these things. So the other thing that I did that I failed to mention here is I did take an online review course. I took Amelia Holier's online review course, and I did study a lot of Fitzgerald. I took a couple of Fitzgerald exams on her website there too, and Amelia Holier, I feel like, just spoke to me a little bit more. It was easier for me to understand, and it was amazing. I highly recommend her online review. I have to say, I took her online review before the final as well. So that 1 week of studying wasn't just going through the Lake book, it was going through Amelia Holier's review. And I can't even tell you how amazing it was. And then after I went through her review course is when I took the APA predictor. The predictor exam that's why I improved by 12%, was because I noticed that review course really helped pull everything we've learned at Georgetown together really well for me, and it really boosted that score. Between Lake and Amelia Holier's review course, it was just unbelievable difference. So then all I focused on before the board final was, of course, taking a mental break. I took a mental break, and then it was just the Lake book, and then used, of course, like I said, I also took the PSI exam. So the PSI exam is a formulation of a bunch of questions that were actually on board exams. They call them retired board exam questions. So I did find that there were a few of those questions on the board exam. So I thought that was really interesting. But I would highly recommend it. It's not like the predictor exams. It doesn't give you, a prediction of passing rate. It doesn't give you, but it does help you with the style of questions that they're going to ask. And it does help you kind of see, again, like if you get 70 or higher on that, you're likely to pass the board exam. Something like that is what somebody was telling me, but they don't necessarily say that. I don't know if you guys can still see me. My computer just went out. So they don't necessarily tell you that on the PSI website, but this is just something that I had heard. So focus. I wish you all luck. Take a break before your board exam. Don't take it too soon. Try to get some good mental health help with meditation, exercise, making sure you're sleeping enough. Like, don't stay up late night studying, guys. You gotta get some good sleep. This isn't just a race to the finish line or passing. Like, this is the beginning of your new life as a nurse practitioner. You want to take in as much information as you can so that you feel well prepared, because after this, you're on your own. You're taking care of these patients. I go into work and just pray that I don't kill somebody. But I feel prepared. I feel confident as a nurse practitioner thanks to Georgetown University. I could not have imagined a better education. I feel so confident in being a nurse practitioner. Of course, there's fear there. Of course, I'm scared. You know, I see patient walk in with a problem, and I'm just like, oh God, I have no idea. Am I supposed to send them to the emergency department? And then other people look at me like, no, they're just gonna send them home. You don't send them to the emergency department. I'm like, oh God, but yeah, what if? Well, we can't think of what if. So just remember to try to collaborate with the coworkers that you have. Hopefully you're all placed in wonderful employment opportunities that has a wonderful collaborating team of people that you feel confident asking questions to. I think everyone deserves that. So I wish you all the luck in the world, and go Hoyas.